implementation workflow, which I was talking about. So it helps you to understand from the start how the project will be initiated, what activities need to be done. In the BIM implementation workflow, we get input as a soft copy from all the consultants. As you can see here, we get a soft copy from all the BIM consultants. This is basically a CAD to BIM kind of workflow. We study data, we sorting with BIM standards. We also check for RFIs if there is any missing information, that is request for information. And ultimately, after sorting it, we complete the architectural plus structural 3D Revit model in Revit itself. Once we complete the architectural and structural model, parallelly, services model is also needed to be started with the services team. Services basically MEP, that is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing team. In this entire workflow process, you also do the project monitoring, and there is MS project and 4D 5D simulation in Navisworks. Once you complete the modeling part of the architecture, structural, and MEP, you do the quality control of the architecture, structure, and the services model. If there is any correction, we request the RFI again. Conflicts identified at the modeling stage communicated to the consultant. So at this stage, whichever in the form of soft copy we receive from the consultants, design consultants, if there is any correction we identified after the modeling stage, that is during the QC of the processes, we communicate it back again to the design consultant. Then we extract the BOQ for architecture and structure in Excel. This BOQ is basically bill of quantities, in which we extract materials and estimations of each and everything. We'll also look at how these BOQs are being made. We export the merged architecture plus structure plus MEP model for the purpose of clash detection. We already seen a Navisworks workflow where we are using Navisworks as a tool for identifying the different clashes. At that stage, we formulate different set of discipline models and we export it for clash detection workflow. Then we perform the clash detection in Navisworks. We resolve those clashes. Once the clash tree model is ready, then we extract the BOQ for services in Excel. So services for architecture and structure has already been extracted after the audit. But after the clash tree model is ready, then we extract the BOQ for services, that is for MEP. Once we extract the services, we export the 3D model for visualization and facilities management purpose in Revisto and Lumion. In the previous slide, I have showed you one video as well about Revisto. Also, I'll be showing you one video for Lumion also, with how a project you can visualize in Lumion. Export 3D model for 2D services output. Once you have the 3D model, you export it for the 2D services output. Here you do the QC of 2D output reference to 2D input. As you remember, whatever we have get from the consultants as a soft copy in the form of 2D, that has been done properly audited and quality control is being done with the 2D reference input as well. Ultimately, you send upload 2D output for construction or fabrication. So in this entire workflow, you carry out different activities like modeling, extracting the services, doing the audit, calculating the quantities, making a bill of quantities, making a class tree model, exporting a 3D model, doing the visualization stuff. And ultimately, through entire phases of the project, you also do the project monitoring and controlling. So as you progress from project to project, as the information gets on increasing, we do the 4D and 5D simulation for the project team member, project management team, to understand a better insight of how the project is going on. This is a small graph which helps you to understand about the common data environment. So whenever we work in BIM, there is a common terminology which will be very much useful for all of you, that is common data environment. Common data environment, from the name itself, it means that you should have a environment where you can store the data commonly and it will be visible for whichever team member you want to make it visible, and it will be accessible or editable or downloadable, depends. So those things, common data environment, we are referring to as a platform which will be on a cloud environment that we call as BIM 360. So BIM 360 helps to create a common data environment for whatever the files you want to store. So here you have different phases in the project. You have currently 7 stages. So in the BIM also we use 7 stages. The 7 stages is being described by RIBA, that is Royal Institute of British Architects. Okay, so the Royal Institute of British Architects recommend these 7 stages. So anyone, if someone asks you like what are these 7 stages, so it's properly defined in RIBA also, Royal Institute of British Architects. You have a brief stage, concept stage, definition stage, design, build and commission, close out. Then you have an operations, and finally in use stage. So you have two kind of model which is needs to be prepared. As you can see on the left side, there is a project information model, which we call as PIM, project information model. The right side, you can see the asset information model, which we call as AIM. So in the asset information model, you have details about documentation. You have detail about non-graphical data. If you have any contracts, if you have any execution plans, those information will be come under asset category, and some information will come under project information category. In the project information category, these phases will come in place. While in the asset information category, it will basically come from the operations and in the in-use phase. Okay. So this is a diagram which has been taken from PAS series. It's a standard guideline for implementing BIM. That is PAS 1192 Part 3. Another concept which recently, few minutes back, I had discussed with all of you is IPD. That is integrated project delivery. So what is IPCD? IPD basically means is a project delivery method that integrates people, systems, business structures, and processes into a process that collaboratively harness the talents and insights of a participant to optimize project results, increase value to owner, reduce waste, and it's basically represents to a master builder concept. And the entire building team, you name the contractor, architect, structural engineers, subcontractors, fabricators, they all work in a collaborative environment throughout the life cycle of a building. So when we talk about life cycle, it's not just starting the building and executing it. It's also about the in-use phase of the building. Even in the in-use phase, even in the operations phase, this IPD applies. So there are 8 key principles to IPD. Involve all team members in the design meetings, including trades and contractors. Institute BIM, that is Building Information Modeling. You facilitate collaboration. You set up a contract mechanism that enable open collaboration. Like previously, I also mentioned that you should have a contract agreement between different stakeholders. So that what IPD recommends is you minimize the paper-based process and collaborate digitally. You check for and manage interferences between trades digitally. Whatever the interferences are or issues or clashes are, you check for it digitally. You create a culture of trust and sharing. You communicate design ideas using 3D visualization to keep everyone aligned. Basically, you use some AR or VR kind of gadgets or technology to keep everyone aligned on the project. That is the concept of IPD. It's not a simple, it's a very long concept. It was first published in AIA, that is American Institute of Architects. In 2007, it was published. Later in 2017, a lot of people have actually applied it and wrote another book called as IPD, that is Integrated Project Delivery. And there are almost a lot of people who have contributed in applying IPD and understanding the case studies out of it. There was even one Indian expert who has a contribution in making IPD book a successful. Okay, so that Indian person was Atul Khanzode. He is currently heading the V Construct company, which is there. I hope every one of you know in Pune, there's a company called as V Construct. He's currently heading the team, and he has also been employed in DPR construction. So he is one of the person who is a leading forefront of implementing IPD. Currently in India, there's no project as such who has actually implemented IPD in any of the project. People have utilized them, but in the form of service, but not in the concept as a whole of IPD. So there's no project in India which have actually utilized the IPD concept. But there are consultancies who say that we can provide IPD, but there's no proper data or source of truth needed to be provided. So that is about IPD. I will also share this IPD particular book with you all in the Drive link. So you can have a better insight of how this IPD is and what are the things in there. Another thing we are discussing about IFC, that is an important term which is called as industry foundation classes. Okay, so this IFC is defined by Building Smart. Building Smart is a not-for-profit organization, and it's almost in all the countries. Currently, Building Smart is in Canada, in Australia, in US, in Middle East, everywhere. So they have their alliances, and you can see that initiative was already begun in 1994. So the main purpose of Building Smart is to have a common or a neutral platform where every person can share the information. Let's say an example, some people among us maybe work with StatPro or maybe work with AutoCAD or maybe work with Save, ETABS or any other tool, right? So, but there should be one common neutral platform where you can visualize the data and information in it. That's where the IFC comes in. So if there are any experts who are working on StatPro, there is an option over there in the StatPro to export the entire model into IFC format. Okay. So that is what it means, IFC industry foundation classes. So you can open that model in Building Smart in an IFC format as well. There are Revit as well. In the Revit also there's an export which you can export it from IFC, and it's basically used as an interoperability exchange of information from one tool to another tool. And some countries have already mandated use of IFC as well. Like Middle East have already mandated the use of IFC, Building Smart. And there is an important term which is called as COBE, that is Construction Operations Building Information Exchange. So COBE is an information exchange specification for the life cycle capture and delivery of information needed by facility managers. I hope every one of you aware about NICMAR, that is National Institute of Construction Management and Research. So there is NICMAR, which has a course called as Postgraduate in Facility Management. So when you do a PG in facility management, you are being trained to maintain or to manage a facility, that is to maintain and manage the entire building, the entire systems within it, entire services. So BIM is also being linked up to facilities management, and in that COBE is one of the very important part. Either you work in BIM, COBE is there. You have, it's a kind of spreadsheet which lists out all the items which is used in the model with their manufacturing date, the person who created it, or as you can see in the image here itself, parts at the rate ps.com means it's created by so and so person. Okay, so you specify the mail ID as well as the contact number. So if any problem happens or if there is any repair or renovation work needs to be done, okay, so you will contact this particular person. You know who is the person who has actually created it, or who is the person responsible for taking care of it. Or if it's in a warranty, or if that component needs to be replaced. So all the information will be contained in an Excel sheet itself. So this Excel sheet is synchronized with the model also. So whatever the changes you do in Excel, it will be synchronized with the model, or whatever the changes you do in the model, it will be synchronized in the Excel sheet. That is vice versa. That's how it acts. There are certain plugins and tools through which you can create OB sheets. Now, talking about the positions we have in the BIM environment, we usually have BIM managing director. We have a person who takes care of the strategic role, which is more of a client facing, which deals with the client. Or there are people who do the BD, that is the business development part. There are people who do the legal stuff. So basically, when we work with projects, you also have some legalities. If there is any issues or clashes between two parties or three parties, whoever it is, there should be a proper set of legal documentation. Tomorrow, we will be having a session on Planoly. We'll also look into details how these documents are actually prepared, what things are needed to be included in these contracts, pre-contract, post-contract, or BIM execution plan. So everything will be covered in the class tomorrow itself. Then you have a design manager also. In that you have three supporting roles. As a design team, you have a project support, you have a class admin, the construction BIM manager as well, which takes care of a class admin. Some people takes care of the estimate, as I mentioned. Some takes care of a digital fabrication. So each of these have been break down in different skill set and different trades. It's a definition of what a strategic BIM manager, client facing person needs to do, such as senior manager or business development. They need to stay on top of trends with the industry and understand BIM in order to speak the language. Basically, these people takes care of all the quoting works. They make quotations. They compare the best rates offered for their services and deal with the clients. So obviously, it's not always a technical person who work in a project. There are also some people who work as a client facing, as a managerial role. So for this role, usually MBA graduates are preferred, or the people from the construction management domain, or from the construction management background, or from the people who are there already in the BIM working, they are preferred. With a good set of communication skills, you have a strategic BIM manager role as a business development as well. Then you have a legal person, you have a design team member, and so on. You have a lot of different roles as such. If you just go on to and search in a LinkedIn as well, you type a job description as BIM job, you'll find a lot of roles which is available. I'll just open my LinkedIn and I'll show it to you live in front of you, like what exactly the responsibilities or what they needed to be skilled while working in the BIM. I'll just search over here BIM job. Enter. See, there are almost like 235 job results available. If I search on LinkedIn currently, if you search on any other platform like Indeed or Naukri or any other platform, you find more results as such. You have different roles, BIM coordinator and so on. I'll only click on jobs. And a lot of recruiters are now recruiting for working as a remote worker. You can see here what is the description of the company, the qualification needed, the responsibilities. Let's check with this BIM specialist from Unispace. provide desk side support, training and standards to all staff, provide existing conditions modeling. This is one of the use case which will look tomorrow in the Planoly platform. Builds custom content for projects, mean basically Revit and so on. Assist project team with BIM execution plans. Obviously, the people are looking for people who can make a BIM execution plan, who understand what tools are required, what hardware is required, troubleshoot technical issues regarding Revit architecture and related software. We look at another one. They require a strong in Revit and AutoCAD. Must have worked on international projects in US preferred. So different countries work in different units also. Some work in MKS system, some work in CGS. Some preferred working in meters, some preferred working in feet and inches. So there are like so many roles available for you all to apply. Some are freshers, some are experienced, but ultimately you'll have to make a portfolio for them to understand. So this is one of the portfolio of one of my students. She is an architect. She has a resume. And if I just click on it, I can open up her project as well. Yeah, I hope it's visible. Is it visible for all of you? Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
A360 screen visible with the model?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. So I think the net is working fine. So this is the model which you are seeing in Revit. Okay. You can see each and every details over here. You just have to share it. If I just copy paste this, you just have to have a link with you to visualize the entire project. You can isolate few elements also. You can walk through inside it. You can check its configuration, its properties. If I right click over it, I have all the properties available. This is basically visualized by anyone. Like you can visualize this entire model from either laptop or either from mobile phone as well. Just you need to have this link with you. I'll share these links as well for you to understand how it can be visualized. What are the properties? You can try playing with it. You can even print it. Okay. These are all the properties of this particular column or the wall. Let's select this particular glass. You have all the properties with glass as well. Currently, these information are missing. You can even include this identity data, manufacturer details and everything with this information. You can even explode this model. If you explode it, it will look some kind of distorted figure, but it's pretty notchment required. And click on any of the element and you can even create a section analysis like this. It shows you the inside part of the building. Right? I've rotated that arrow. That's why it's showing like this. You can switch it off as well and come out. So that is how you need to prepare a portfolio project. And second thing also, you should have a portfolio like which can be given to the HR of the company. So he or she can visualize what things you have done in the project itself. You can see the project here, web implementation by architect Jyoti. And see her drawings which is being extracted, the same model which you are seeing here, same drawings she has extracted from it, all the elevations. There is no need of manually creating sections or manually creating each and every plan. It will be automatically created, right, in the form of drawings. We have shown the exploded model as well. With the Navisworks manage the different clashes. It's also a 3D representation of the building. The working drawings. Another project which she has worked on, the clashes and so on. So that is what is required in the industry currently, a proper portfolio, a proper project which anyone can visualize, right? So if you are not, if you don't have these kinds of visualization for applying for any of the job or any work, no one will entertain you with just a resume or a CV. I can show you some more as well. Let's check with a structural portfolio. Here you can see another portfolio by a civil engineer, previously was of an architect. This is by a civil engineer. You can see his project. He has extracted the GFCs, the good for construction drawings, on the sheets. The reinforcement detailing has been done in a proper manner. He has extracted the quantities for column, for beam, for slab and every other elements, for walls as well. Is extracted for rebar schedule also. Total weight of bar in kg. Let's put on some details about the site visits, the actual live project where our students have worked. It was a simple G+3 building, G+3 RCC building. You can see the student here itself. His name is Dayan. That is what required. Another thing is we also create a video resume. So coming back to the topic, I'll share with you a workflow working in Revit. Is it visible? Is the Revit screen visible to all of you? Because if all of you have opened up your software right now, I am sharing you some workflows for getting drawings, extracting drawings, and also extracting quantities out of it. Is it visible to all of you, the Revit screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Audio and video is all clear, or is there any lag in between?
It's clear, sir.
No lag.
That's great. So those of you who have already installed the Revit 2021 version, they can open up a project, they can open a sample project and do the deliverable as well. Parallelly, I'll try to showcase you how the deliverables are extracted from the model. Secondly, I'll also share with you the links of all the videos which you can find on my YouTube channel, where you have a step-by-step procedure of working in a project. Okay, So I'll share that link in the group today in the class itself. So even if you missed out something, you can go back to that particular video and watch it again to understand how the deliverables are extracted. So currently what you are looking at is the Rabbit model with only the structural elements visible for you. Other elements are being hidden. I can type a VV, that is a shortcut. You can see all the elements over here are hidden. Only the floors are visible. Staircase and some structural components are visible. Okay. So here you can see that this particular column, you can see it is solid, but inside this column there are also some reinforcement which is provided. Okay. So if there are other columns like this example, if you want to make it solid as well, you can go to override graphics in view by particular element. You can see that it has a transparency of 50%. This transparency you can keep on 0 and ultimately you will get a solid column itself, which will actually look like a concrete column because you have provided a concrete material for it. Okay, so the first workflow that we will see is extracting the drawings out of these models. Okay, you have this model in place. You have an option on the left hand side in the project browser called a sheet. You right click over it. You can create a new sheet. You can select which sheet you want to create. Is it the updated one, or you don't want to, you want to create a blank sheet? I can click on open. You can see here that sheet 7 with a name is being given here. This is some different size of sheet. If I open a new sheet and I click on updated, you get a different kind of and a different size of sheet altogether. So what is this sheet? This sheet is basically a family. When I click over it, it will show you that this is a family, right? You can edit and manipulate anything over here. Currently, that particular student of mine, he has put down his name over here as a class. So if I select this logo, okay, add it into the project, which is G++, and I click on overwrite the existing version, the name remove. In the same way, you can anything. You can change the text. You can change style. You can make it from Arial to Times New Roman, whichever font you want to create. And in the sheet itself, you have dragged certain elements. So firstly, I'll show you a sheet which is of for foundation and column layout. In this foundation and column layout, you can see here different views which have been extracted. Click on it. You can see here that this is a structure, right? And in the if I open it, you can see that these are the plans. Structural plan, TO pile cap. Then you also have a structural plan T2. You have a elevation. You have a 3D view. You have two 3D views. These are the two 3D views currently you can see here. You have an elevation as well. I have structural plan and sheet. So these are already being dragged over here. You can see these plans. You can even manipulate and change, like you can delete it, or you can check the dimensions. Right? You can press Ctrl Z. So you make separate 3D views and separate plans for these sheet creation. So if I go to a 3D view on the left side, you can see here that pile A detailing, pile B detailing is over here. If I double click on it, you can see this is pile A1 detailing. It's provided a color as well. It is provided this is what, it's basically a text. If I type CS, I can just click over there, type whatever text I want to type it over there. And I can drag it. I can make a leader out of it as well. There's a leader with an arrow. So that's what actually done in the 3D view. I won't change it. I'll just delete it. Go to a sheet again. And you can see the detailing over here. You can see the quality as well. So if you want this kind of quality to be printed in your sheet, then you have to do certain settings. When you go to print option, you can print either in a PDF file format, or you can even export this entire drawing into CAD also. And you can open this file in AutoCAD. That is also possible. So you can, from here you export it to CAD files, whichever you want to export it. It's a DWG, DX. You can basically be exporting a DWG file format. But here currently I'll show you how to export it into a PDF view. This is the current view. We have to go to a setup. You can check here that raster quality is currently high. If you keep on presentation, the quality of your file will increase. I'll let it be high only, and I'll click on OK. Click on OK again. It will ask me to define a path where you want to export it. I'll just click on, I'll type sample 1 and I'll export it. So that's what it currently does. It exports the entire drawing over here. You can see this drawing, but this drawing is of not so high quality. Still, there are some images which are distorted. If you want to export it to high quality figure, you can keep the settings as presentation. And also you can see that some lines are bold, some lines are light. So that basically depends on line weights. So when we go further in the presentation, we will talk about line weights and these standards of how actually we can create it. Cool. So that's how we do extract a drawing from a model. If you keep a presentation, it will be a more high definition workflow. Nextly, we will look at the quantities. So currently we can create a quantity from here at the left bottom. You right click on it. There are different options. You can create a schedule, you can create a material takeoff, anything. So currently what is already there is a rebar schedule. The same way you have a rebar schedule, you can create a schedule for or a material takeoff for columns or beams or any component you have in your model. So you can see over here the host category, host count, style. You have the bar diameter, total bar length in meter, bar weight per meter, and total bar weight in kg. So how you convert these things, but if you use Excel, you can put on the formula and convert these things, right? But here it is already being converted. So when I click on this bar length in meter, I click on this edit parameter. You can check here. In meter, you have to define divide it by 1000 mm. So once you divide the bar length by 1000 mm, it will convert it into a meter, because the current units which is set into the project is in meter itself, in mm itself. So if I type UN, you can see the current units over here. It's in millimeters, right? You can check and change the units to any other units you want to. Currently, it's in millimeters. You can define the symbol as well. Put on here meter. If I put on feet and fractional inches, or millimeters, you have mm here. So that's the reason we have converted the rebar schedule. Then we have a bar weight per meter. Also bar weight per meter, you have a formula over here for total bar weight in kg. Again, you have a formula, right? Now let's actually create a quantity takeoff for one material. Let's say create a quantity takeoff for column. So I'll go into schedule and quantities. I'll create a new material takeoff. I'll select structural column over here and I will click on OK. Now here it's asking me certain fields in order. I'll just add few fields here. Let's say material name, material volume, and I'll click on OK. So what it will do, it will create the entire schedule for columns. You can see the material takeoff here for each and every column. But it's not properly understood by us, because we haven't filtered it down with respect to levels and flows, right? So for that, we also need to add a base level or a top level. So I'll add a base level over here. I'll also add material area. Let it be that much. Cool. Now you know that which column are from which level. This column is from pile cap level. This column is from third floor terrace and so on. So if you want to filter it down, you can even filter it with respect to levels specifically, or you can sort it with respect to level. So here I will sort it with respect to base level. I will check the footer on. I'll click on OK. So easy, right? So here you can see that all the columns are being properly arranged in a sequential manner, starting from the pile cap, L1, then first floor, second floor, third floor. But you don't have the totals for it. You don't have the total volume or the total area for it, right? So you go into the formatting, you go into the volume, you also check calculate totals on for volume and for area as well. Now you have the total as well. You need not to calculate anything. You need not to use Excel at all. Everything you are doing here itself. Good enough. Now, if you want to export this into an Excel, you can even export it with respect to certain plugins or add-ins, or you can export it into a TXT file and then convert it into an Excel. So that is also possible. So once this entire process is being done, you make something called as a master sheet or the master quantity takeoff. So I'll show you how a master sheet looks like. This is basically the resources folder. First, let's look at ASI, that is architecture, structure, and interior. In a building, you have different disciplines. I am only looking at ASI first of all, that is architecture, structure, and the interior workflow. How you export the quantities from Revit to Excel. But this is not actually linked, but you can link the quantities as well. This is the master sheet that you will prepare. This is one kind of delivery which is expected. You can see all the quantities are in cubic meters. It is mentioned over here, the cubic meters, right? You go down, you have the total for each and every level. You have the quantity for rebar as well. Check with brickwork. Brickwork, there may be of different sizes of brickwork, maybe 100 mm thick or 115 mm thick, and so on. So the same quantity, the total which you have extracted, you have to like put it into an Excel sheet like this and create a total out of it. And you can also put on a remark over here, like the latest quantities or the updated one on which date. You can also check for the flooring. Whatever the floors are there, what is the type, color, size. We can add 10% extra. That's how quantity is being extracted. Then in the similar fashion, you have a quantity for MEP also. The one just I showed you was for ASI. Now this is for MEP. For MEP, you have supply adducts, return adducts, kitchen. You have chiller plant as well. You have some HVAC fixtures, HVAC chiller piping on different floors and levels. Firefighting, you have a water supply, electrical cable tray or conduits, any lighting fixtures if you have used inside the project, their name and their number. Basically, how many number of these will be used. Then parallelly, you can type the cost as well. So that is how the quantity is being accepted. Coming back to our topic. Yeah. So these were the roles of a design BIM manager and so on. You have different hierarchy of working in the BIM company. It may change from different companies to companies. So currently, what are the hottest skills which is required in the industry for people to work in the BIM domain? These are the automation skills which is required as of now. Forge, Dynamo, Python, and C#. If even any one of the skill you possess, then you are good to work with the BIM domain, because you are doing a modeling part, or you are doing repetitive work that needs to be automated. So for that, you will also need to work with the coding platforms. These are some companies or institutions which publishes the standards for them. Tomorrow we will also be looking at ISO 19650, which is the latest standards which have been published by BSI. There are standards by AEC, UK BIM standards as well. Then there are some minimum template requirements. When we work in a BIM, you have some sort of requirements. So you need to define, first of all, what are the project units, what are levels and spacing, what are view properties, view display, what are door styles, what are text styles, what are line weights. So all these things are required while creating a template for any project, right? So currently we use any of the default template for working in Revit, but being a BIM manager or a BIM coordinator who initiates the project, he or she needs to define a template as well. And all these templates, how they are being defined, obviously you need to follow certain set of standards. So what are these standards and what are the standards available in the industry as of now? We will look into detail in the tomorrow's session. So these are few of the projects which I have done long time back. This is one of the project. I hope you remember, any one of you who have visited Dubai. It's in Palm Islands, Palm Jumeirah. This entire hotel is called as the Royal Atlantis. This Royal Atlantis was entirely made on the Palm Jumeirah Islands. So we had a project for working on this, of creating shop drawings. If you want, I can show the shop drawings as well, what actually the deliverable we have extracted out of it. Just a minute, I'll just open it for you all. Let me check. Yeah, I have the shop drawing available over here. Cool. Can you all see this drawing? Is it visible for you all? Can any one of you respond?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Good. So thank you. Thanks a lot. So this is a shop drawing which we have extracted for the particular project which you are looking at the screen. You can see the detailing work needs to be done over here. You cannot imagine this level of detailing to be done from a software like AutoCAD or a CAD based application. It's totally impossible for you to work on such a complex project and do the detailing, create thousands of sheets. It would take years and years to create it, a lot of manpower, unnecessary costing and everything. So that can be totally automated with respect to a Revit. So currently the sheet which you are looking at here right now is one of the deliverable from Revit tool. Okay. You can see here you have the north and east coordinates as well. So we have to specify it on every corner or and every angle. All the coordinates must match. So the site engineer who was there on site, he used to place his compass, he used to place his equipment over there and check for the north and east coordinates physically as well as virtually. So whatever the coordinates we are giving over here in the sheet, that coordinates need to match on site as well, because there shouldn't be any of the error in the building. So that is the level of or the precision of working with BIM. You have different tags for different walls. Currently, you can see these walls. I can show you the schedule of these walls as well. Right. These are the partition schedule. It's not a brick wall, obviously. It's a wall with some different material altogether, chip frame. or Gyprock moisture resistant board. Cool. If you have anything, notes and everything, that will be noted on the right hand side. For making one single sheet, you have to refer so many documents. You can see over here: master door schedule, partition schedule, second floor plan, and so on. This was the entire building of a curvature shape. This is zone 2. Here in the bottom you can see the zone 2. In the zone 2 you have one type of, which is called as 2-bed type 1. On the left hand side you are seeing only 2-bed type 1, and only on one particular level. You have different levels and you have thousands of sheets needed to be printed for different shop drawings. Currently you only see this shop drawing for wall. Okay, so this is a wall shop drawing creation. You have another shop drawing creation for floors, for beam, for columns, and different other components inside a building. So like I was in a company called Texture where we worked on another project called as Gate Avenue. This is currently in Dubai, and if anyone of you visit Dubai, over there you have an entire mall underground, which is called as Gate Avenue. This is from Bihar Lakshya Foundation. Anyone of from the participant who is from Bihar, he can comment on it. You can check the deliverables. Basically, these were the deliverables or the services used. This is one of the projects from Swansea University, UK. It's basically scan to BIM conversion, which I was talking about, X-ray of human or X-ray of a building kind of thing, what we call a scan to BIM. This is another project which we did in Gondia. So in Gondia, we did this project for analyzing a sun path. For it's actually a green building project where we are analyzing how we should keep the orientation of a building, or how we should keep the orientation of doors and windows in such a way so that you have maximum sunlight in winter and maximum shadow in summer. I hope you all got my point. Maximum sunlight in winter and maximum shadow in summer. So as you can see in the bottom right, you have November 4 p.m. southwest direction. So currently we are looking from the southwest direction. We also do the shadow analysis of the existing building. So left, right, and behind it there are some existing structures. So we also did the shadow analysis. So if those buildings are already there, what is the amount of light which is going inside the building? So that is what we call a shadow analysis, and we did the entire sun path analysis for this building, extracting a solar roof as well. This is a sample project about township planning in Mihan. Then I'm also showing you this one of the Khapri station illustration. It was of a metro project. I'll switch off the video. I'll switch off the audio. I'll directly show you the video itself. It was one of the Nagpur station, metro station, which was constructed in Nagpur. The entire video which you are looking at as of now is from Lunian. That's how it was planned, and currently it's actually working. If any one of you visits Nagpur, you can go through it. You have the different models available, ASI, MEP, and MEPF, where you have different information contained in it. Talking about the dimensions, I hope all of you are well aware about the BIM dimensions. You have 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D. In the BIM, you have basically these four dimensions, five dimensions: 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, and 7D. 6D is basically when we link the model with respect to energy analysis or with respect to sustainability concepts, then we call it as a 6D model. Or when we link the model with respect to facilities management applications like with COBie sheets, you can see here the name as well. Just now we have talked about COBie, right? So when we link things with respect to COBie or as-built, we call it or term it as 7D, which will be used in the facilities management purpose. These are some of the software tools available in the market. So a lot of you are aware about these tools. If we talk about architectural tools, we have Revit, Archicad, Namstack, Bentley. We have Rhino BIM. For sustainability, we have Green Building Studio, Eco Designer, IES, Bentley. For structure, we have StatPro, ETABS, Revit Structure, SiteCAD, Tekla, and a lot of other tools. Robot structure analysis as well. For MEP, we have different tools. For construction, we have Synchro, Bentley, Solibri, Autodesk Navisworks. Right? For facility management, we have Economus as well, FM system. These are the tools which are used quite popularly in the BIM as of now. With respect to different disciplines, I have bifurcated it. Now talking about the maximum usage, as you can see from the graph itself, it's of Revit, rather than Archicad is also being used by a lot of architects. You have different integrations with Revit, as I just mentioned in the previous session. I have shown you the entire Revit integration map, where you are discussing where you can actually interoperate with other software tools like Dynamo, Tekla, StatPro, RCDC, and every tool. You just name it, whichever the tool you want to interoperate with, you can interoperate with any of the tool available. And these are the projects. Okay, so coming to a very important part of today's session, if we talk about scope of BIM in India. So basically how the scope actually is. So let's me give you an example first of all. As you can see in the salient features, you have a 3-story building of floor area. Let's say you have a 3,000 square feet of area, and the built up area would comes out to be around 9,000 square feet. This is about the project. You have a construction project. In the construction project, you have different people involved. Let's say I have termed as contractors, architectural, structural, and MEPF means the architectural consultants, structural consultants, and MEP consultants. Let's assume that contractors charge a rate of 1200 per square feet. Architectural people charge a rate of 5% of the construction cost. Structural person charge a rate of 1 to 2%, and MEPF person or the consultants, they charge a rate of 3 to 5% of the construction cost. So let's say the contractors, you have something called as built up area multiplied by rate, 9,000 multiplied by 1200, which comes out to be 1.8 crores of the cost for the contractors. Here there is a miscalculation, as you can see here. It is actually multiplied with the contractor's rate, but that has to be actually multiplied with the overall budgeted cost. But still, forget about it. Only understand about done. Okay. So the cumulative project cost comes out to be around 1.2 crores. The reason I am explaining this cost is because when we have all these things taken in place, budgeted, calculated, what happens next is you have a subsequent sequence of work. So what is the subsequent sequence of work? You start with the proposal drawing first. You come to an architect makes a proposal drawing in which he or she makes a 2D drawing which provides an improper visualization altogether. There is no proper visualization. Beginning of disparity between client's expectations and architect's design. So you give him a proposal drawing, maybe 2 or 3 proposals. Ultimately, he or she finalizes one set of drawing, and this proposal drawing is actually of no use later on. Then he moves on to another set of drawing which is called as sanction drawings. This sanction drawings needed to be approved by a sanctioning authority or an improvement trust or a municipal corporation in your area, whichever the authority is there to sanction your drawings. These drawings required for obtaining work for sanctioning, they contain all floor plans, elevations, site, location. It obeys the bylaws of the governing authority, right? So then you prepare a sanction drawing. That too is another effort. Then ultimately you prepare a working drawings. It is a complete set of detailed drawings sent to the site for construction. Now, when you prepare a working drawings, the proposal drawing is different, sanction drawing is different. Ultimately, the working drawings you prepare is different. So for working drawings, basically what you do is from the sanction drawing, you sit with a 3D visualizer. An architect is a person who sits with a 3D visualizer. This 3D visualizer is one who works with 3ds Max or SketchUp or something, and he or she makes a good looking model out of it. And from that model, that architect tries to make some working drawings from it. Once architect make a working drawing for an architectural plan, then that particular architectural plan is given to the structural person with the proper column marking over it, because that is what required by the civil engineer or the structural engineer. And then subsequently these plans are being distributed with the MEP consultants as well. But this entire process, they work in silos. And as in the first session itself, we discuss about silos. That is where the silo is. Architect is working independently with his own set of drawings. Structural person is working independently with his own set of drawings. MEP consultants are working independently with their own tools and set of drawings. And ultimately, when we are coordinating the project, there comes a lot of errors and clashes and a lot of rework. Even if you handle those clashes or issues with a meeting or with a set of call or mails or something, but there are reworks there. Now, this entire thing needs to be bifurcated with the scope of women in India by J. Vinod. It's one of the paper. You can find this paper and the entire transcript. If you just search it on Google, the scope of women in India, you can get this paper as well. From that particular paper, this is an efficient difference between CAD and BIM applications for a particular project in different phases. So you can see here that different phases, the CAD, you have certain number of hours, with BIM you have certain number of hours, and this is the amount of hours saved and the time savings. So this is a cumbersome process of generating CAD drawings, which requires a lot of time in comparison to BIM generated models. The difference has been efficiently quantified in the following excerpt from the IIT Roorkee paper. So that is what I was talking about, scope of BIM in India. So once the government people approves, I'll just switch off my screen sharing. Okay. So once the government actually starts understanding that why BIM is important in the industry, what the government will do is they start making BIM as a requirement. Okay, so let's say you have a highway project, so government will make another requirement. The government will put another tender for works for the BIM works basically. And then when the tender is open, there will be private companies who will be bidding for it, and these private companies will be applying for the tender by quoting an amount for the whatever service they are providing. But what will happen with this way is on the one way you understand that this government is actually helping the people to understand or implement BIM on the government projects. But what actually is, the government is actually putting an extra work altogether. Because if BIM has to be come in place, it has to be come from all the stakeholders, not from a third party. I hope you're getting my point. So BIM has to come from all the stakeholders. It should not come from a very third party. So whichever the projects you are looking at of now, as of now, I personally believe that maybe it's metros or highways or buildings or any projects which is doing, which are government projects currently, that will be an absolute failure from my point of view. That will be an absolute failure just because they are using or utilizing technology in a very different way. They are utilizing the technology, but also they are making drawings. So imagine two things are going in parallel. You are creating a drawing as well as you are creating models also. So there is an entire team and effort who is putting the effort and creating drawings because they don't want to depend upon technology stuff. Okay, if they depend on technology stuff, then the project will not happen altogether. So they also say that they implement BIM. So that's how they are implementing BIM, by keeping BIM as a service and as an additional cost. And that's how the implementation is happening currently in India. But I believe that this will soon change, and it's actually getting people like you are getting matured about what exactly BIM is and how you can actually utilize it, what services are there, what is BIM consultancy or what is BIM service providers. So people will slowly and steadily, once we have those skilled people in place, then we can efficiently utilize the web implementation workflow. I'll also show you what iWorkstation is currently doing with it. Yeah. I hope you can see the screen, right? So in this screen, as you can see over here, this is iWorkstation web series, where we invite professionals from different countries altogether to have a live interaction with us. And the audiences are not just industry people, they are from academics, they are from research. Even Sunil is following iWorkstation since a long time, and I hope he has been a part of some of the videos here as well. He's been quite active in asking questions, so you can see all these sessions here. So this is what the initiative has been taken up by iWorkstation. And I believe that the similar initiatives are being needed to be taken by other people as well. There are some people who are doing, but I'm not sure that how collaboratively these people are doing. So you can see here all these experts who have a plenty of years of experience working on projects. You can look at this person, Pavel Laguna. He's from Poland, actually, and he's a BIM and GIS expert using parametric urban design. So he's working in terms of smart city development. He's working in terms of BIM GIS development. On a level 3 integration, he's working. Then another person who is Gokul Eswaran. He is working with data science in BIM. Now imagine, we all know about what is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everything, right? So he's currently working as a data scientist, and he's working with the data science in BIM, but not for an Indian company, but for a MNC, that is WeWork, right? But what if we started actually following these people and we try to apply it on our own projects as well? You have this person called as Mohammed Suhaib from Pakistan as well. So this person has been working quite extensively and is a researcher as well, working in the life cycle analysis of them. You just go through it and watch his entire video. You'll get to know how life cycle analysis in BIM is done. Another thing, tomorrow we will be discussing about Plannerly, as I just mentioned. So in the Plannerly, we also did a session with Clive Jordan, who is the co-founder and CEO of Plannerly. He has taken a lot of initiatives, a lot of webinars, sessions he is doing, right? So I had a word with him and we kind of formulate that we will make a webinar or an awareness session for the people. So currently he has all these people who you have seen here, they haven't charged anything. for doing all these sessions all together, right? And even I haven't charged anything from them. So this is all together they are doing for developing the BIM in the Indian community, maybe in the academic or you say from the industry background. So they are helping us to understand what BIM is, what are their applications in their own country. So this person is Mujtaba Larijani. He is from Iran. Now you imagine this person is actually explaining how he's working in project using Tekla. It's not specifically that you need to work only with Revit or AutoCAD or something. You can use any application which you are interested in. If you are interested in steel, you might go into Tekla, but you also need to think which kind or which category of job is available at the moment. If you talk about India, there are very few jobs available with Tekla, well, whereas there are more jobs available with Revit or Autodesk platforms because of the market, because of the publicity that Autodesk has done. Whereas we talk about Bentley, you have very few jobs available within Bentley because the Bentley people are not enough. They don't have the proper kind of training infrastructure in India as of now. You have certain other tools like StatPro, which is of Bentley itself. But for EcoSim, I don't see there are any professionals or people who are working. There are very few people, and you don't even heard about these people and their projects. We talk about Victor Kuzev. He has efficiently explained about the Dynamo. He also has and runs his own channel on YouTube that is Revit Experiments. We talk about Pedro Carranza. He is one person in Canada. He is also a professor for George Brown College in Canada itself. And he has worked, currently he is working with Ontario International Airport Project for implementing BIM. You can find all these people on LinkedIn. You can connect with them. You can discuss with them. That's how the networking needs to be done, right? So if we are just understanding in this session, it's not just all the theory that goes into your mind, but also you need to understand how you can network with them or how you can leverage the iWorkstation platform in order to be in touch with these people, right? So these are the events. If I show you some more, let's check on the conference. So this was about last year. I met this guy called as Jim Bloom, who is the secretary of Building Smart. In the entire session, we discussed about Building Smart as well. You remember IFC Industry Foundation classes. Secretary of Building Smart Australia, there he was present. He presented a paper as well. Then with Anthony Strays and Dr. Amarnath CV, who was also invited as a speaker from L&T Chennai. Currently, he is heading the BIM strategy department. I had also get a chance to work along with him for quite a couple of months in Bangalore itself. You can see here the Steve Worrell director. He's one of the person. I mean, all of you have heard about Warner Brothers theme park, right? Everyone knew about this Warner Brothers theme park, right? So this Warner Brothers theme park in Abu Dhabi. So this particular specific theme park he was the actual project manager of that theme park. He was present in the conference as well. Then talk about Richard Patry, who is the CEO of Building Smart International. Then there is another platform called as Ecodomus, which is used for the facility management purpose. He was the one who introduced Navisworks to the US market as a founder by View. So one software which you all have seen, Navisworks, which was actually introduced by Mitch, this person in 1990s itself. In 1990, that was an era of like Apple and a lot of other companies were booming at that time. Even he had worked with Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was actually presenting the entire, the Mac, and giving the audience that how he can work with Mac, there was some person, Mitch, he was working from a background and explaining the 3D model in the Mac itself. So in 1990s itself, the BIM has been introduced. Even before that, as a concept, but not fully, but as a concept, they have actually introduced it. So this was about today's session. I hope I'm able to clear a lot of your doubts and questions today, right? So if you guys have any of the question to ask me, you can ask, and else we'll finish the session. Yeah. Yes, Subramanian. Yeah, tell me.
So what purpose does a Forge serve in the BIM workflow? Forge.
Forge. Hello. Are you talking
Yes,
about
sir.
Forge?
Yes. What does it basically do?
Yeah. I'll directly just show you so that other people can also have a better understanding of what Forge is. Just a minute. See, this is Autodesk Forge. It's actually by Autodesk. The Forge platform offers APIs and services that help you access and use your design and engineering data via the cloud. Okay, so it offers APIs and services. Basically, you can create an add-in or plugin with Forge, and you can use it with or interoperable with different platforms like BIM 360. You can build apps for BIM. You can run automation scripts in the cloud itself. That is what the Forge API is basically. Everything that you can do is in the cloud platform itself. So there are different ways where you can work with Forge. You can either work as a user or you can either work as a developer of Forge API. So you have heard of different add-ins or plugins like Dynamo and different things, right? So these Dynamo and add-ins and plugins, we use it locally. But what if there are plugins we can use it for the cloud platform? That is where Autodesk Forge comes in. You can make and build apps for the BIM. Build apps for BIM. BIM 360 APIs allow developers to integrate with the Autodesk BIM 360 platform and extends its capabilities to the construction ecosystem. Explore the APIs, how you need to create these APIs, how you need to link with the docs or design. So I'll give you one example of a very good integration which has been done by an Indian company. Okay, so this is an Indian company, planbim.io. So this planbim.io, you can get it on Autodesk App Store as well, and it has an integration with BIM 360. So basically, this Forge is for these companies to integrate their product or their add-in or plugin with Autodesk products. Like you want to make an add-in and you want to integrate that add-in within BIM 360. So with this product, you can do this. With Autodesk Forge, you can build those kinds of products. See here at the apps.autodesk, you can find that app as well. It's something a kind of similar platform for Plannerly. So Plannerly is also being made on the Autodesk Forge also. So how this Plannerly is made? The Plannerly is clearly interoperable with this BIM 360. That's why it needs to be made with Autodesk Forge. So any of the plugin or add-ins or APIs, that is application programming interface you want to make that needs to be interoperable with the software or the platform, you need to go with the Forge API. And you see over here, this is a plan BIM. The release date, it's by texture. There are some more plugins which is over there. These plugins are actually workable with Revit, not with BIM 360. This plugin is also workable with Revit and also with BIM 360. You can also find a Planoly plugin. MyDB. Or Planoly has this available inside the Planoly itself. From the Planoly window itself, you can directly interact with the BIM 360. You can log in into BIM 360 and parallelly work in Planoly as well. So that is what Autodesk Forge does. Any other question?
Hello, Adnan.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of the participants probably already are aware about BIM and probably are working using it, and it's the multitude of the things that it can help achieve. But some probably are very new to it. So there was a question from one that says that as a, what do you call it? As a test or a trial, can you show us one small design of a structural member from the scratch, let's say from the drawing stage to the design, the structural design, the incorporation within a building frame, and then probably material and integration with HVAC, things like that, or electrical lines. So if we can, I know this is probably a very big task in one day, that's tomorrow, but if you can show just the workflow using one small element rather than the entire building, it would help people who are very much new to this. We can probably understand the depth of the whole package.
Absolutely, ma'am. When we talk about actually showing the entire workflow from scratch, there is not a single element that needs to be modeled. You need to have a lot of other things, settings, information, everything needs to be taken place. Example, if we are showing a complete structural analysis workflow, for that I need to show what loads I am putting on, okay, what IS codes I am following, what structure is there, column, beam, slabs, everything needs to be modeled in a systematic manner. Like just placing a column here and doing the analysis, that is only possible with a member in SAP, if I'm right? In SAP 2000, we can do that with a single member, you can do the analysis. But here, it's not possible actually. Here you have to work out with different elements if you want to describe the HVAC also, if you want to describe the architectural works, quantification, everything. So I am just showing you bits and pieces, the different workflows, and directly showing you the deliverables which can be extracted. But this entire process that you are expecting from scratch, it will obviously take a time. It's not a task which you can do in just few minutes or in few hours. It's not at all possible.
I understand.
Yeah.
Totally. Any other questions from anybody? What can we expect tomorrow then from Adnan?
Yeah, sure. Tomorrow we will be discussing about Plannerly. We will be discussing about BIM 360. We will be discussing about standards also, that which countries have utilized which standards, and also while working with Revit or any of the Autodesk tools, what are the things, what are the standards way of working. So I'll be showing them the entire common data environment which you need to follow, what workflows you need to follow, what nomenclature you need to define, right? When you store any information in any cloud-based environment or either locally, you need to follow certain standards. So how you define these standards or how you create these different templates. So all these things I'll be showing tomorrow. And also whatever I have discussed today in the session. So for these session, I'll be sharing some resources, the Revit files, also the presentation, some links in the WhatsApp group itself. So each of you can just click on it, go through it, and brush up your skills if you have a 2021 version. If not, you can even use a sample model which is already available by any of the version of Revit. You can use a sample model and try to do make out the deliverable out of it. Yeah.
For those people, so those of us who installed those softwares, I know a lot of the participants could not finish the installation. Though we initially thought that we could train somebody, I know we cannot train anybody in 5-day training, even if we exclusively spend time on it. So for those of us who have already installed, can we try a small exercise tomorrow using one of it?
Sure, ma'am. Tomorrow you will have an exercise on Plannerly also. Tomorrow you will also have an exercise on Revit. The same exercise which I performed today itself. Tomorrow, those people who are having the system or having the software open in their laptop or computer,
Yeah.
they can perform the task which I'll be telling them step by step.
Sounds good. I think that will be really nice.
Yeah.
So we will connect back tomorrow at 10. The hosts will be available by 9:45 for all those people who are logging in or having logging in issues. We are sorry for the morning problems that we had. It was not because of the Microsoft Teams. It was because there is a maintenance issue happening within the campus, and we were not aware about that. So we've asked them to postpone all the maintenance of the cabling that they are doing for after 3:30 for the rest of the week of this week. So our sessions would continue without any disturbance. So we will catch up tomorrow. Yes, everybody's attendance is automatically noted using because that's the reason we are using Microsoft Teams. And the videos are also recorded. Every session is recorded. There is a YouTube channel that we are creating. We'll be putting all these the videos as YouTube videos, and the links will be shared even with the Atal portal and with all the participants. Right now, it's only the informational, the promotional video that we have created is available on the channel. So right now, it's not of much use for all the participants. If Adnan permits, we can share his PPTs also. But the recorded versions we have to give to both the participants as well as to Atal.
Yeah, I understand, ma'am. Sure. I'll share those links in the group itself.
We'll catch up tomorrow around 9:45. Thanks everybody for bearing with us in the morning. I hope we will continue to have a smooth session tomorrow and day after too. Thank you, Adnan. We'll see you tomorrow.